of tonight's day two, 50 days or ministry lessons that I have learned. Thank you once again for joining in and to be a part of the second night. We're going to believe God for grace for the next 48, but we're here, night number two. These meetings, of course, will happen at spontaneous times during the day. It just appears, at least in the interim, that the evenings are going to be a little bit more suffice. And so, thank you so much. Do me a favor, like and share this. Encourage your followers and friends to join in. 50 days of ministry. This is day number 49, I believe. So, we're counting down. And we're just grateful for all that God has done over the last 2 decades. It's hard to believe 20 years of ministry as of August the 16th of this year. And what a journey it has been to share some portion of it with you all. And for those who have been around for the duration from day one, I'm extremely grateful. There are a few people in mind that that come to my immediate thought that have been around for the tenure outside of my immediate family. Two amazing men of God, Prophet Wayne McClellan and then Prophet Philip Harris, who have been around before Rivers became Rivers. We were prayer partners. We grew up in the same ministry as youngsters back in the mid to late 90s. It was a powerful time of just engaging. We were under an open heaven with our local church at the time. And what a phenomenal journey it has been to this point. So I'll be sharing various stories or diverse kinds of episodes consistent with these lessons as we progress and move forward, trusting Holy Spirit to just stir up my pure mind and really highlight some of the hallmarks of ministry that are important to share in this respective season. Of course, is very challenging to package 20 years and then over 20 plus years, about 25 years total, a quarter of a century being involved in ministry and advancing the Lord's kingdom and being an integral part of his local church on a global scale. And so I am extremely ecstatic about all that God is doing. And I'm going to share some of the highs, some of the lows, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But at the end of the day, ministry for me has certainly been a privilege. And it's by the privilege of God's grace that I'm able to do what I do and to do it for so long and still have a drive and a zeal to move forward in Him. I'm going to be sharing once again just some wisdom nuggets from this book, 50 Lessons Ministry Has Taught Me, a small booklet which is really designed for group discussion and for leaders in particular to deal with specific topics, a few words, and then a little bit of language to build out that specific thought and let it become a lesson. So, I was in a very interesting place in life several years ago when I wrote this small booklet, and I was under like an open heaven. And as I was just sitting quietly before the Lord during devotion over the span of several weeks, these nuggets that the Spirit of God began to emphasize, these are lessons, jot them down, and I'll give you verbiage. And then as I begin to journal and put verbiage to it, it's like, okay, this is something I can share with the general public in particular, because I am certain that many across a broad spectrum of life that are tethered to any type of ministerial function where leadership responsibilities have been delegated to you, or just a life in ministry as a whole, can relate to or find some reference point that says, you know what, that's me. Thank God for this wisdom nugget. Really, really appreciate it. So, lesson number two, take time to invest in yourself. It's important to realize that you are your greatest asset in this realm. Laboring to bless and empower others is costly on you. Depending on your role or position, you may draw scrutiny, but don't allow that to distract you from blessing yourself. We're living in such a hyper polarizing times where everything that people do comes under the scrutiny of a cell phone camera, sound bites taken out of context, things that we do that can be miscrewed or used to actually can actually be used and weaponized against us to facilitate some harm or put us in some just diabolical predicament. And the fact of the matter is that you meant no harm at all. And so this is where taking time to invest in you, especially in the place of rest. I like to say it this way, that when a ministry gift, man or woman of God, is out of rest, it's just a matter of time before they're out of order. It's important to take time to invest in you, to invest in getting away from your normal routine and breaking it intentionally to just um, have quiet time with God for an extended period of time, an extended period meaning anywhere from 5 to 10 days, or plan vacations, and then also incorporating in that whatever regimens that are necessary to keep you healthy, strong, and vibrant, whatever type of therapies you may need to. Uh, be able to process where you're at in life from a holistic perspective, and then reconcile that stuff back to Christ in order for you to move forward. The investment in yourself, it is worth it. There's a very powerful passage of scripture that's found in Hosea chapter 10, verse 12. And the opening part of that verse says to sow to yourself. Sow to yourself. We're in a time, once again, where anything we do can easily be subjected to the judgment of men from a demented, twisted, delusional perspective. And then there are times where we simply do need to have the wisdom of others to speak into our destiny and purpose for the sake of us coming into compliance. That's also an investment. You can go to diverse kinds of workshops, leadership training, whatever it is that will sharpen you. Take a course, online course, maybe at a community college, something to sharpen whatever skill sets you may have for the sake of you becoming better. That's an investment in you. And it is important that you do not apologize. I remember in the earlier years of ministry, I had some very legalistic things about myself that I had to stick to, I had to do. Very, very regimented, because I was acutely aware of the privilege that had been afforded to me, and also the tremendous responsibilities of being involved in full-time ministry and responsible for the spiritual welfare and well-being of other people. And so I would have prolonged periods of time, 8 hours, 10 hours a day in the word, studying, praying, fasting all the time, young, full of energy, and not necessarily having, and I'm still young, and I have energy. May not be as full of it as I used to, but I still have energy some 20 years later, and God is faithful. But it became so regimented and almost like borderline legalistic, to the point where I was wearing myself out, and then was abdicating some other things that liberty was afforded for me to do. And it was only through the power of divine connections and destiny relationships that I began to live life and develop a balancing act. My commitment was to be extremely spiritual, and to make sure that I crossed every T, dotted every I, and did nothing to bring a reproach to the Lord. But in the process, I was killing myself, not literally, just a lack of a better term, and as well, it was taxing those that I was joining to, because it was not natural. And so, taking time to invest, you getting tools and strategies on becoming a better version of you. And I've learned over the years that oftentimes when problematic things transpire, not to blame others. It's an area, or it's an indication that, man, you need to pause and find something worthy to invest in yourself to become better. Sharpen your communication skills, sharpen your people interaction skills, sharpen your personal orientation. Don't be so concerned about the opinions of other people. And of course, all that's tied into maturing, but learning the importance of sowing to myself, sowing to myself, sowing to myself. So vacations to yourself, so sabbaticals to yourself, so times of R&R to yourself. Go to different parts of the world just to view life, to break your own personal vertical limitations, and expose yourself to different things so that you can have a broader perspective on how to relate to people. As I often share within our local church, that when it comes down to being a functional ministry gift and really being effective in dealing with people, there are three things we need in particular: a continual renewal as it relates to discerning and understanding the nature of God. Our theology must be intact. Number two, there must be a consistent renewal, sharpening, and a reemphasis of studying people. Very, very, very important. And then there must be a continual redemptive revelation of mercy, because relating to God, God is love. There's nothing legalistic about him. There's nothing harsh. There's nothing indifferent about him. And dealing with people, there's a constant need to refer back to the source, God, who is love himself, in order to engage humanity in a proper way, and then be able to operate with the type of mercy that's needed where compassion can be shown. And sometimes we need to invest that in ourselves. So that is the lesson that I have for you tonight. Take time to invest in yourself. It's important to realize that you are your greatest asset in this realm. Laboring to bless and empower others is costly on you. Depending on your role or position, you may draw scrutiny, but don't allow that to distract you from blessing you. Taking time to make sure that your circadian rhythm is set, that you're sleeping properly, that you're eating properly, get an exercise regimen, stick to it, remain true to it. Sometimes we go invest in gym memberships and then we lack the capacity, the time to do it. Just start at home. There are all kinds of things you can do as far as cardio at home without any equipment. Get you some resistance bands, go on YouTube and find out how to do a resistance band routine and just the basic things that you can do several days a week so that your body can also remain healthy. I've been blessed by the grace of God for these 53 years I've been on this planet to be void of any sickness and disease that has hospitalized me or put me in any predicament. Not that I have been off limits as it relates to just certain attacks, and I call them attacks from infirmity, but at the same time, practicing juicing as a lifestyle, doing my best to eat the veggies and eating seeds and nuts and getting the good water intake on a day-to-day basis and just dealing with different things as an investment until I find my niche to say this works for me. And so God has been so faithful over the years. And this is where, when there's a progressive mindset about becoming a better version of you, you do things intentionally to bless yourself. You're your greatest asset. People will use you up today, and then you're gone into eternity, and folk will forget you ever existed. You've got to take time to demand certain things of yourself, where you can, in fact, superimpose dimensions of God's power to demand a better you emerge. And that begins with a commitment to a personal investment. Invest in a personal trainer, someone who can coach you and motivate you if you lack to get up and go. Invest in, just maybe something where you can have so many vacations per annum. If you're a creature of habit like me, and when you do things, you like to hit specific places and you plan for it, that will give you access to these places. But find a way that works for you and bless yourself. Sow to yourself. Hosea chapter 10 and verse 12. Now we know that that text was dealing with little Israel, and they had to break up the fallow ground because they missed the time of seeding the land, and as a result, things were not, they weren't getting a harvest. And so, if you want to see a harvest called a better you, a sustainable you, one of a you that's governed by longevity and vitality, gotta invest in you. I trust that this has helped you tonight. This is lesson number 2, and we have a lot of great stuff coming in the days ahead that we'll be sharing concerning lessons we have learned. So more grace, God bless, and thank God for these 20 years of ministry. I appreciate all of you. So grateful to God for you coming on tonight and just giving a listening ear. Strength and honor, and we'll see you again at some point tomorrow. God bless.